Welcome back to Qtronics, where I have all the gear and no idea. Today we're going to be looking at a WonderSwan Color. I'm going to be putting a new IPS screen in. Now recently I also did this to a WonderSwan Crystal, so go and check out that video up here. And essentially the IPS screen is the same screen, it's just the install for the colour is a little bit different. Not only that, my colour actually, if I show you, has the button for power stuck, so we're going to try and rectify that. While, there you go, while we're in on it, if you press power button, it doesn't reset or anything. So we're going to have a look at that contact point as well. And as well as, you can see, this WonderSwan has seen better days. It's awful, the screen's battered, everything. So I'll also be reshelling it into a transparent black shell. Look at that. Right then, let's get into the WonderSwan. Now, WonderSwans are really easy to take apart. It's just 6 screws. So let's get the game out first. And then get the battery slot out. And let's get it apart. And there we are. We're at the WonderSwan. It's very simple. It's very simple inside. Not a lot to it at all. The ribbon cable here is exactly like a Game Boy Color. Just pop both sides. These little tabs here, if we pop both sides, the screen cable comes out. There we go, nice and simple. And then the board should just pop out. And that's it, that's all that is attached to the WonderSwan. Now normally, we'd be popping this screen out, getting rid of the buttons and popping the front off. But again, as I'm reshelling, I'm not going to bother doing that. I'll just keep that shell there for the future in case I ever want to use the original one again. There we are, there's our screen. Now, as mentioned in the previous one, we would have to cut away the shell. With this, it just drops straight into place, no mess. There we go, no messing at all, straight into place. Just going to pop that screen, I'm going to pop that speaker rubber off. Oh no, it's actually stuck down, I don't need to. Perfect. Right, as we don't have to do any cutting with this, I'm actually going to install the screen cover first. Normally I would say don't, because you've got to sand it down, but we don't need to with this. So let's get this part installed. And they should just line up nicely and slot in place, which I didn't do there very well. Just going around and double checking all the corners are in place. There we go, we're good. Right then, let's get the screen bit installed. That is not what I wanted to happen, but hopefully we can rectify it. So when you're doing this, make sure it sits back properly, because I've not done that in this case. Bear with me. Oh, I can't believe I've messed this part up.
All right, let's do this one last time.
Right then, screen time. So this part here needs to be on the button side. Ready? Nice. That's a good feeling, that is. and this should sit all the way down on these little nibs here. These are the ones we had to cut away in the WonderSwan Crystal, but they should just sit right on top of those here. That looks perfectly aligned to me. Touching, touching. And they're all touching as well. This bottom one is just a little bit out, so I'm going to just see if I can pry it up ever so slightly and move it. There we go. I'm happy with that now. And these bits of foam here need removing, so let's get rid of those now. There's all the foam off. Right, let's solder onto the board. So this is going to sit on there like this. So not the way around, like that. So you want the wires to come up under. So for the wires, one can go through this little hole here, and the other just wraps around the board. So we want to solder to this point here, sorry, this bottom point here, and this top point here. And luckily enough, the kit came with 2 wires. Fantastic. As I said, take this wire through that hole there. Cool. So this side here is ground and this side is positive. So when we flip the board over, the one coming through the hole solders on to the ground part. So let's get a bit of flux on these pads and let's get some solder on them. I'm going to assume this board is used in other consoles because there's a select right and left buttons there. So I assume this board is also used in their GBA or other screen enhancements. And there's the battery, which is the positive terminal installed. And that's it. That's all the soldering done. Nice and easy, 2 wires. There we go, let's just check this work. Looks good. Looks good. Yep, looks good. That looks good. Perfect. Right then. Next is our insulating film. Firstly, one needs to go on the back of the new screen in this bottom left corner. This is to stop the board being shorted out anywhere. And then the other piece of film goes on the back of here. like so. And in the WonderSwan video, what I didn't show you is these bits of sticky are actually to stick the board onto the back of the screen. So I'm going to cut this down to size and stick it on the board. And then the board sits like this. So it'll sit around about there. So I would personally first get the ribbon installed in and then stick it down. And the board is in place. Now the two touch sensors I always affix later after I've tested the screen, because they're the hardest things to take off, whereas all the other stuff we can take off, and I've had more sticky stuff for it. So then, let's open my new buttons. So interestingly, they have sent me a choice of clear buttons. Now, I'm not sure how they're I don't know if they just slot in individually, but I'm going to go with the set of white personally, because the start and select, well, the start and upper buttons will be white and grey anyway. I'm going to stick with the colourful buttons. There is one piece we will need, and that's this bit. This is the lock. So just for reference, the X1 and the Y1 are at the top. There we go, we're in. So now we can fold the board back on and give it a test. So these wires obviously will be on show, so we're going to try and... Actually, I'm an idiot and we've not plugged in one of the main things yet. And that is the ribbon cable. So if we run the wire up that way, it's not in the way of any of the contacts. And then this one can just sit down the bottom here. And it's not in the way of any of the contacts then. There we go. Now this actually sits in this way, like this, upright. So we're going to need to bend it a little bit. So I suggest plugging it in first and then bend it back under the front. Right then, just need to install the battery terminals and then we can give it a test. So just to show you how a normal one works. Positive on this side. So it sticks out across this little thing there, that's it. But obviously actually get it seated properly and not like I have. There we go, there's one. And then the ground point. Now, that little bag of extra things where I was confused about just a moment ago. Now I see what I've done wrong with the buttons as well. Right, let's finish this off and then we'll get to the buttons. What an idiot. Right, battery cover sorted. Let's fix those buttons. Ah, what an idiot. I did think it was weird they sent double buttons. Yes, if we get an existing one, just need to put the caps over them. Let's just slot that back cover on for a second, just so we can see it working. Just moving these ribbons out the way so we don't break them. I will sort that button out in a second. I just want to test the screen. There we go, screen's working. Right, let me fix those buttons, back with you in a second. And so we stick these points here, just to the top of the shell. Like so. These control the colours and the brightness. So you want them a little bit far apart, just so. I can get the sticky plastic thing off. There we go. I'm just looking at the guide. If I can pull this one off, it suggests sticking them both closer to this way. Right then, job's a good one. Let's get it all back together and give it a test. Right then guys, we're all back together now. It's all fully reassembled. The lock button is back in, game's in. Right, the last two things to do are to put a new fake Bandai sticker onto it, which we'll do now. And let's hope I can get it into the right position. There we go. New fake sticker. Just smooth out the corners. And then the final other thing is to peel away that screen protector. Are we ready? Oof. And there we go. Right then, one interesting thing to note while I was putting this back together is I was using an old battery. So watch what happens in a screen when you use an old battery. It perplexed me for a little bit. I thought I'd installed something wrong, and then I checked, and here we go. I'll show you what happens if you put a dodgy battery in. So it boots up, looks like it's going to work normally. And then off, on, off, on, off, on, constantly rebooting. You can see the low power sign there. And yeah, so if you install one of these and you come across that issue, that's the reason why. You've not actually installed it wrong. It's actually... There you go, as you can see, it's starting up now. Sounds on. It's actually the battery. So I've got the WonderSwan Crystal here. So I'm just going to check if it does the same thing on the Crystal. So here's the Crystal. So it'd be interesting, maybe it's just something that happens on the colour. Right then, let's see. We get a similar one. I think a message did come up the first time in Japanese, which probably looks like low battery, but as you can see, it doesn't power the machine on. Now, that's probably because IPS screens take a lot more power than the old ones did. So I wonder if when you get a low battery, the machine just starts to flake around because the screen's not getting enough power. Right, I'll just put the other battery back in. And as you can see, we're working straight away. No issues. So there's one to watch out, guys. If you do install this and you think you've installed it wrong, actually you haven't. It's actually you haven't. It's just the battery's low. Right then, let's give this a final test then and have a look how that screen works. Have I not installed the game properly? Curse of the demo. Yeah, have I put the battery wrong? No, the battery was definitely in the right way. Let's just unplug that game a bit. You just saw it working, so that's actually really annoying. And I've just touched all the screen now. Oh, I don't know what happened there. There you go, you can see it working. To be honest, I did think I'd installed it wrong at one point, purely because it wasn't running properly. Right, let's just give that screen a quick clean. As before with the Crystal video, I'll put the links in the description so you can go and find them. It looks beautiful, the new shell. I'll show you on the big camera up here as well. Just that new shell looks absolutely perfect. Now, the only thing left for me to do is actually learn some Japanese. Let's just get it into a game, make sure all the buttons are working. Obviously, we have to be Agumon. There's no other one. Here's, you can see all the screens changing colour now. And then we have the brightness. Check the buttons down. Left and right are working, and the taunt buttons are working. Right then, I'm happy with that. Beautiful install. Right guys, let me know what you thought of the install of the WonderSwan Color. Again, it's a bit of a weird console. There's not many about in the UK because I never left Japan. Hopefully one day I'll be able to read Japanese and be able to play some of the beautiful games that came out on here. As I mentioned already, we have a WonderSwan Crystal IPS screen video, so go and check that out. And soon we'll have a comparison video showing the two screens side by side, as well as the two previous screens side by side, so you can see exactly the difference between the two. Personally at the moment, now if you're just watching this video, WonderSwan Crystals go for more money, and as you can tell with the install, it's actually the same screen being installed into them. So if I was you personally, I'd get a colour, purely because you can buy new shells for them. You don't have to cut anything out, and the install's just that little bit simpler. And like I said, when they're the same screen, it makes no difference. The other one's more expensive than this by probably 40 to 50 pounds or something silly. So get yourself a colour. Right then guys, thank you for watching. Go and check out some of our other stuff and I'll catch you next time. See ya.